Well, hello and welcome for Season 3 of the Curbside Chat, the video podcast series where we talk about the automotive aftermarket, the critical topics with the people who make it happen. So today we're going to be joined by our AIA Chairman, Jason Yurchak, who is now going to be the host for this season. But before we turn it over to Jason to introduce today's guests, I'd like to take the opportunity to acknowledge our Season 3 sponsors. Thank you again very much for your continued support. Without your contribution, this show would not be possible. I'd like to also remind you that we're going to be taking questions throughout the show, so be sure to post your questions in the QA box, and we're going to make sure to get to all of them throughout the show. So without further ado, let's bring Jason to introduce today's guests. Well, hello, Jason, and welcome to the Curbside Chat.
Well, thank you, JF. I'm looking forward to hosting the new season.
Well, absolutely. Please introduce your guest.
I would love to do that. So, hello, everyone. And I'd like to introduce today's guest, Chris Besemer, President and owner of CG Motorsports in Richmond, BC. And today we are going to discuss the challenges and opportunities of working on EVs. So let's jump right into it. Hey, Chris, nice to have you.
Good morning, Jason. Happy to be here.
All right, well, let's jump right into it. So how has the evolution of EVs affected your business?
Well, it's the next logical step in things. As you know, we're seeing more and more EVs on the road today. And I think it's just the next step in servicing cars for the future. So we just introduced it beginning of 2022. We secured a electric certified technician to work on these things. BMW put their first electric car out, the i3, in 2014. So again, with more and more electrics coming on the road, we're basically putting the option to not go back to a dealership to fix these cars.
Great. I mean, there is definitely an opportunity out there. A lot of people are looking to the aftermarket to get their vehicles serviced. And I think that this is a great opportunity for you as an independent business owner to be able to meet that need. So your shop's known as one of the premier BMW specialists in the Vancouver area. Is BMW always in your mindset? What made you decide to specialize in BMWs?
Actually, it started with me for Volkswagens. My first cars were all Volkswagens, and I had a love for Volkswagens. Unfortunately, at that time, my dad was a service manager at the local Volkswagen dealership. And when I turned 16, I wanted to go work there. But he had an issue with that, being favoritism and stuff like that. He didn't want me working with him. So I walked across the street to BMW, knew nothing about BMWs at that time, and got a job there to pay for modifying my Volkswagen back in the day. So as time went on, I started as a lot boy at the local BMW dealership, worked my way through the ranks, became an apprentice, a certified BMW technician, and I stayed at BMW for about 10 years. And my true heart was performance. And at that time, the dealer didn't want anything to do with performance aspects on BMW. So that's when in 1999, I decided to open up my own BMW performance shop in Richmond. But fast forward to 2022, the shop has transitioned from a performance shop to a dealer alternative. And that's where we are today. So the performance side of things is like 10% of what we do here.
That's great. So you've gone from doing, focusing on the performance end to focusing on 90% more of the everyday needs of the regular consumer and BMW owner.
100%. I keep the 10% just to be honest with you, to keep my interest in what I do, because I love the performance side of things. If I was fixing oil leaks and coolant leaks all day long, there's a little bit of pride in it, but not as much as, getting the most out of your car, whether it's, wheels, exhaust, whatever, just the personalization of the vehicles for people. I love doing that.
Yeah, I totally get it. As being car guys, there's always that performance aspect where we like to fool around with the vehicles on our own and
Yeah,
you know, get
personalize
the
it.
most out of it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
So being in BC, which has one of the highest rates of new vehicles being EVs, are you seeing a lot of additional business on EVs coming into your shop?
Well, again, we just started in January, and as you know, over the last few years, just EVs on the road, like Tesla, for example, man, every third car on the highway coming to work is a Tesla these days. So that's what kind of made me aware of this transition happening. Even my dad, you know, like I stated, he was working for Volkswagen for 32 years. This man has gasoline in his blood. And you know what he's driving now? He's driving an electric car. And I never, ever thought I would see the day of that. But he, you know, his excuse to me was it's probably the last car that he's ever going to buy. And he wants an experience electric. So for my dad to make the transition to electric really had me thinking that anybody could be doing it. And all the people that I thought may not go that way are going that way. I've spoke to some people where they're like, yeah, I don't like electric. I like gas because I like to hear that sound, that fuel, smell, everything like that. So I'm going to buy an electric car for everyday use, and I'm going to keep my gas car for weekend fun. So even those diehard guys, they're getting into electrics now too, but they're not getting out of gas. They're keeping the gas on the side to just, you know, their fun stuff.
Yeah, I guess with the my experience with electrics is that, you know, they do have that fast off the line performance, but there's not really a lot you can do if you want to play around with them performance wise.
No, at least not at this point. Keep that in mind. Like, I mean, whenever something comes out, like, you know, something new comes out, there's always some guy that can tweak it a little bit more. Like you know, in my years, BMW produces a new M Power car. That's the fastest M car ever produced. And shortly thereafter, there's an aftermarket company that tunes it up even more and gets even more power out of it. So there is room for the aftermarket sector for modifications on these cars. Whether people do it, I'm not sure, but you know, I think in the future there is going to be, you know, definitely some outside interest in those cars.
Hey, Chris, this is Jeff here. It's fascinating. I love to chime in here because we often think about people buying EV to be more of the, you know, green-oriented type of individual. But what you're telling us, the story of your dad and some people in performance is electric vehicle is more of an add-on. It's a new avenue. It's something new to explore, not necessarily turning their back on ICE vehicle, but just adding to it. So, and I guess many of your customers have been sort of that mindset of, I'm keeping my ICE vehicle, but I also want to explore onto the EV side.
Exactly. We've been hearing that a lot lately with people. And you know, in BC here, we have um, a program with insurance that you can insure your car as a classic car. So you get special license plates for it and everything. And that could be your weekend car only. You can't drive it to work or anything like that. So you can keep your gas car. You get a discount on insurance. They call it collector plates. So you can keep your old gas car. It has to be 15 years or older now. But a lot of people with the older BMWs, it's making it easier for them to go into the electrics to be better for the environment, and they're getting a discount on insurance if they don't use their gas car as their, you know, work car to and from. If it's just a fun car, you can get a discount on insurance.
Yeah, actually, I've noticed that one. And I guess in BC they also do it by the mileage you drive,
Yeah.
and the less mileage you get a better price.
Right.
So, with all the technology that's involved with these new vehicles, what have you done to modernize your shop to work on them?
Well, first one was getting certified technicians. And secondly, just outfitting with what really just makes sense is safe areas for working on. So grounding stations, mats, stuff like that. And basically barriers. I know when Jordan works on some cars, it looks like he's working in a hospital room. Like everything's barricaded off. He's got signs everywhere, high voltage area, and other technicians are not to enter into that area when he's working on cars, just for the safety aspect of it. So the diagnostic machines for us, because we specialize, isn't so different, because the diagnostic machines both work on all the other BMWs and also the electrics. So that works for us. It's really just outfitting the shop with safety zones and lights for high voltage, working area, stay clear, and stuff like that.
Interesting. That was kind of my next question was, you know, the experience of working with these and what the safety aspects are. I guess with the high voltage, you have to be really careful around that stuff.
Yes, 100%. And just stay clear. And for us, or at least for me, it's all stuff that really just makes sense. It's nothing that's new and introduced, and it's boggling my mind why we have to do it this way. Everything that they're laying out is just sensible and makes sense. Of course, stay clear of this, don't touch that, qualified hands only. And it's really entertaining to watch Jordan work sometimes. Like watching somebody that is a master at their profession is pretty impressive for sure.
Hey, Chris, let me jump in here again. How hard has it been? So, once you've got your technicians start to realize, you need new tools, new process, the safety zone. How much did you know in advance coming in, or how much you had to learn through the process of realizing, oh, I need this extra tool? And how much of a burden and expense was it on you as you went through that process?
It wasn't so much of a surprise. I knew we needed to do something to follow the safety procedures and stuff like that. Expense wasn't a big burden at all. It's a matter of, like sanctioning off the work area and signs, and the grounding station and stuff like that is all whatever it is. The battery chargers, of course, there's going to be a cost there, but it's what we were used to back in the day with just working on cars. I remember back in the day, everybody freaking out, and I'm dating myself now, but everybody freaking out about onboard diagnostics too, way back in the day. And it's just like, oh my gosh, we're going to need special computers to communicate with the cars and everything. Yeah, it was an expense. We put it out there, and it's just the cost of doing business, I guess. It's I guess to in a nutshell, it's nothing that we're not used to. Like, running a shop, you have to spend the money sometimes to keep yourself current. And it's a new stuff that we're buying, but it's not, extra expense for anything that's above and beyond from what we're used to.
So I'm going to date myself here because I remember the conversion from carburation to fuel injection. So
Yeah, same thing.
That was a big thing back in the day.
Yeah,
and I guess buying all that extra equipment is just an investment in your shop. So
exactly.
But
one thing that's really interesting, Jason, not to go off topic here, but when you said going from carburation to fuel injection, now we're going from basically gas to electric. There is still a huge market out there for guys that can fix carburetors. And I remember going to an expo one time where they actually had carburetor training on a car, and I shook my head, and it's just like, why would somebody take that course on how to fix carburetors? But you know what? That was a fantastic course for people to take, because not a lot of people want to be bothered with carburetors anymore. So to know that and be able to fix these cars, you're going to get a lot of business from people wanting to keep the old cars on the road. So there's two ways to look at this industry. You can look to the future, or you can look to the past and start specializing in the old stuff, because the old cars, they're not going away anytime soon, and they'll always be somebody that needs to repair them.
Hey, Chris, we already had some questions in the QA. A lot of people are showing interest. One of the question, I'm not sure if you'll be able to chime in here, but the question is, what's the EV home charging scenarios in BC? Would you be able to comment on how people are getting the chargers installed in their home? And are you seeing people having difficulty and challenges around that?
Yeah, a lot of people are doing the home chargers, no problem. I haven't been a direct part of that. I know my dad did it, and he drives a Hyundai, and Hyundai supplied all the parts for him, and it was just a qualified certified electric technician that came to his house and installed it. So it's like, nothing special because it's a car charger. Again, it's just electricity and the voltage and tapping into the fuse box. His fuse box in the house was capable of handling this. So you just got to find a spot in the house or in the garage for a charging station. And it's really easy. A couple of hours of a electrical technician's time and you're set up. Easy.
Excellent. I got one more question for you, Chris, if you don't mind. The question is that related to your technician, is that AV technician training or certification, is it done provincially regulated, or is it from the private group or from the manufacturer? So what's the exact scenario in order to get those technicians certified?
Well, right now with Jordan, he's factory BMW certified. All the training was done at the dealership, and he's certified up to, 2022 vehicles because that's what they're working on at the dealer level right now. So that was easy for me to bring him aboard with all the factory BMW training there. But locally here, we have two colleges. We have VCC, which is Vancouver Community College, and BCIT, which is British Columbia Institute of Technology, that offer EV courses for students wanting to learn. So at this point for me, being 4 technicians in the shop and only 1 electric certified, I would like to send another technician out to a college to get their electric certification, and then they could work alongside with Jordan on repairing the car. So Jordan has the technical training from BMW, but he can pass on the work to another technician right beside him, rather than just relying solely on one guy. We have one specialist, and the other guy can kind of take over and do the work, be qualified to work on the car if Jordan gets too busy with other things.
So what about the training for technicians outside of obviously the dealer network and the community colleges you mentioned? Is there other training available for your technicians being an independent installer?
Are we still talking about just the electronic sides of it, like electric vehicles, or just outside training to keep my
Electric,
technicians
I,
current?
I would say both.
Okay. Well, as you know, with one of our main suppliers, with their expos and training things, it's been a valuable resource to keep my technicians current. I know it's been suggested that maybe from manufacturers, they were talking about possibly offering courses to independent shops that they can join in with their factory technicians to partake in courses offered at the dealer level. Now, just from the BMW side of things, there's always been hints of that coming down the line about having basically brand certified independent repair shops. That was talk a little while ago that we would be able to hang the logo on our front door and everything like that. But, there would be certain parameters that we have to go through to qualify for that. And it came down to parts purchasing. We'd have to purchase X amount or X percentage of parts through the dealers in order to be a certified repair shop. But like I said, there's a lot of talk over the years on that stuff, and nothing's really come to light. So we rely on one of our main suppliers here for the training. Afterwards, they have expos and stuff like that that we can join into and take courses, continuing education courses. And for the independent sector, that's a really big draw for technicians to come work for an independent, because a lot of guys are worried that if they leave the dealer, that's as far as their training is going to go. They're going to be stuck in, say for example, they leave a dealership in 2022. As soon as they leave the dealership, they're only going to learn how to work up onto 2022 cars. They're not going to be furthering their education. So with, like I said, one of our suppliers offering continuing education, it's a valuable resource for us to get technicians out of the dealer level and still be able to continue on with their technology, not falling behind in technology.
So so what you're saying is an independent technician, their career doesn't stall on what they can work on when they leave the dealership. They can continue to work in the aftermarket and have a very successful career working on everything up to the newest model vehicles.
100%. Now, we always lack a little bit behind. I would say we're probably about 2 years behind because that new technology from the manufacturers takes a while to trickle down. And of course, we don't see the new vehicles here until really they drop out of warranty. So as far as their continuing education goes and stuff like that, it's usually cars that have been on the road for 2-3 years so far.
Fair enough. That makes sense. So, how difficult is it for you to access technical information on vehicles?
Um, if we're talking about EV vehicles, like I think I stated, BMW produced their first i3 in 2014. It's kind of interesting. I'm in a unique position because we have a lot of support from our BMW dealers here, and to get the information from BMW is not an issue at all. I don't know how it works for Toyota, so I'm very biased to what we do here and how specialized we are, but it's not a problem getting information on older BMWs.
Great. So that is that like technical information, like all the schematics and maintenance, service manuals, everything else is available to you.
Yeah, 100%. No problem there. Schematics, diagrams, even special tools if we need special tools. And the deal that I have with the local dealers here is if I borrow a special tool more than 3 times, I buy that special tool from them. And yeah, it works well. I have a very good working relationship with all the BMW dealers around here, both from colleagues that I used to work beside in the shop when I was at the dealership, and also from the parts personnel from the volume of parts that we do buy from them, that they're very supportive of helping us fix these cars. Wasn't always the way. Back in the day, they thought we were a threat to them and they wouldn't give us any information and tools to repair the cars. But I think it's come around now that the dealers here can't possibly fix them all, and there's enough work for everybody. And if they have a very good wholesale account with the parts division, that they want to kind of keep us going, because if they give us the tools to fix the cars, we're buying the parts from them.
And I guess on that note as well, if you're keeping your customers who own BMWs happy, they're more likely to go back to BMW to buy their next vehicle.
That's a very, very good point. And it makes sense, because if you were buying a car and you were forced to go back to the dealership, you may not go for that brand just because a lot of people don't like the dealership for whatever reason. And having a place that you can go to and have your car fixed properly, it does really solidify the brand on. And that's what I've always been an advocate for BMW, going, you guys need guys like us, because not everybody's going to go back to the dealer. So people will be selling their BMWs used, and then they're going to be buying new BMWs. So somebody's got to buy the used ones and go somewhere. So
fair enough. So I got a question. Working the maintenance on these vehicles on EVs. I've owned ICE vehicles for years. So you're doing a tune-up, you're doing plugs, oil change, air filters. What are the different components you're working on and for maintenance wise on an EV?
For us now, believe it or not, and I'm just going to jump back to the i3 just as a case in point, with the extended range. So they actually have a gas engine on those cars too, and they're very prone to engine mount failures. So we're even though it's an electric car, we're still doing regular mechanical changes on them. Same thing with the suspension on electric cars. The cars are so much heavier, we're finding suspension components failing, springs falling apart, shock absorbers failing, and stuff like that. So we haven't done any battery packs yet, like the whole cells. We've done charging system, like chargers failing, stuff like that. But then a lot of regular normal maintenance, like I was saying, engine mounts, suspension components, tires. But you have to be basically certified to work on these cars, because some of the repair procedures require you to disconnect the power source. And if you're not trained on how to do that properly, there's an issue there.
Don't want to touch the third rail.
Yeah. So
Well, this is great. This has been phenomenal conversation, Jason and Chris, and lots of questions keep coming in through the chat line. But I'm mindful of time. And before we let you go, Chris, today, we actually just keep always our last piece for what we call a rapid fire question. So we have 5 questions. I'm going to give it back to Jason for that final round. Jason?
All right, Chris, here we go. So what was the make and model of your first car?
1967 Volkswagen Beetle. I bought it when I was 14 years old, fixed it up. It was perfect, but I was still too young to drive it because I bought it when I was 14 years old, fixed it with my dad. So we sold it when I was 15, still had a year to wait before my driver's license. So it was my first car that I just drove around in the backyard.
It's much better than my first car, which I mentioned in an earlier chat podcast. What's your favorite thing about working in the automotive industry?
Just the love of cars and seeing what we can do with cars.
What's the thing that you're terrible at, but you love to do anyways?
Cook. or it doesn't have to be automotive related.
It can be anything.
Yeah. You know, I like cooking, but I'm horrible at it.
Well, there you go. So what's a common myth about the automotive profession that you'd like to debunk?
Honestly, that we take advantage of people. Like, I mean, it's just like the whole used car salesman, the mechanic, don't trust your mechanic. That I'm sure they're out there, but I think in a lot of cases, it's one bad apple that spoils the whole box. So in general, like all the guys that I associate with their businesses around here, we're all 100% great guys. We really care about the customer, getting the customer taken care of as efficiently and economically as possible. Seriously, that's what we're focused on. Maybe I'm just privileged to be in a good group of people. I don't know, but we're all solid 100%.
Yeah, knowing the shops in your area, I would definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
And one last question for me. What's the most memorable road trip you ever went on, and where did you go?
That would be down to California in 1994, from Vancouver down to Anaheim, California, nonstop driving, 1986 GTI, Volkswagen GTI with my buddy. I drove until it ran out of gas. We filled up the gas. He drove till it ran out of gas. We switched drivers again. And that trip, I think we did about 10,000 kilometers in a week. Just drive. We went across to Las Vegas, through Death Valley, stuff like that. Never forget it. It was horrible when we're doing it, but it's great to talk about afterwards.
Fair enough. I've done 10,000 kilometers in a week, but it's been in a plane. So
yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time to join us today on Curbside Chat. It was great to have you up here, out on the air, so to speak. And yeah, it was great.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you.
It was a pleasure. I hope to do it again.
Well, thank you very much again, Chris. Thank you, Jason, for hosting. What a great conversation. I'd like to, again, acknowledge the contributions of our sponsors and from all of us at AIA. Once again, thank you for joining. And until next time, well, take care.